Hey folks, it's Katie Green here with Elisa D and our show, Let's Get Therapy. As you know, Elisa D has an advanced degree in psychotherapy and specializes in trauma, PTSD, and addiction. And we have a doozy for you today, folks, and this is a big one. And Elisa, I would love for you to drop the line that you just did before we came on the air.
Can you believe this affects 19 million people across the US? Some people call it worry, some people call it panic, some people call it fear, but we call it anxiety in the psychotherapy world. And again, it affects 19 million people across the US. Can you believe that, Katie?
Oh, that's the last thing that Elisa said to me before we started the show. And I was like, what? Huh? That many people.
19 million. And people with anxiety are more likely to go get treated at the hospital, to actually get treatment for their anxiety. And what a shocker. Why do you think that is?
Oh, maybe because it feels like you're having a heart attack.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And you're worried all the time. So we gotta, how do you fix it? You gotta go to the doctor. You gotta fix it, right? So
now,
seek treatment for
now,
it.
if so many people deal with this, then how come whenever, if you know somebody who does deal with it, if they're having a panic attack or, oh, I'm having an anxiety attack, why is there almost like this, yeah, right, get over it, kind of an attitude about it?
Wow. That's new news to me, because when I hear somebody say they have anxiety attacks or panic attacks, as a therapist, I'm like, whoa, let's dive into this. What's going on for you? But tell me about that. I need to know more about that from your end of things.
Well, I know the reason that you wouldn't get that is because you have compassion and you do understand what anxiety is and can do to someone. But for the average person that doesn't know that, okay, this person was just sitting here next to me and now all of a sudden they're complaining that they're in a huge full body sweat and they feel like the world's going to collapse in on them. Why? I wonder what it is behind someone that finds that it would just be okay to tell someone to relax. Oh, just relax.
Just relax.
Or to think that, oh, it might just, oh, there's Katie, she's being dramatic. Here comes a panic attack. Somebody who doesn't understand what's actually happening.
Yes. I hate that. I hate that. Just relax. It's kind of what we were talking about last week. Like, it's fine. Just think positively and it'll all be all right.
Yeah.
Right.
Put yourself on the beach.
Right. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Just relax. Take a deep breath. It'll all be fine. No, anxiety is a reaction to stress. And if your body has been overstressed, or if you've been traumatized in any way, or if you have been trained to have to be hypervigilant over like safety things, then you are going to be in a constant state of stress for your well-being, right? So for some people, calming down is not, it's a skill that you have to learn. And a lot of times people don't learn that skill in childhood. Also, maybe the parents dealt with anxiety, so they just didn't know how to teach their kid to, stay calm and grounded and things like that. But yeah, you can't just calm down. You'll be fine.
Well, and like you said, telling someone to just calm down. I deal with anxiety. I take medication for it to help, because my brain creates the worst scenarios that it can without any control over it. And actually calm down or relax, those are trigger words. You say those to me, I'm going from anxious to furious.
Yes.
And then more anxious on top of it. It's just, it's like the total atom bomb on a panic attack.
Yes. So, okay, there's anxiety without panic attacks too, but tell me, for you, what happens when you're heading from anxiety to a panic attack?
So, well, my first physical symptoms are, I think I've touched on these with you. My heart starts to race, my temperature goes up, and especially my palms start to sweat. Mm-hmm. Like that's one of my key indicators that I'm kind of going into it. Mm-hmm. But my panic attacks are, thank goodness, few and far between, but I can go from sitting here maybe worried about something that happened and I don't totally have control over it yet, to borderline hyperventilating and crying.
Right.
And again, doesn't happen often, But when it does, it is like when I'm done, I'm taking an Advil and I'm laying down and I'm not talking to anybody for the rest of the day because all of it came out of me.
Absolutely. Because when you're having a panic attack, a real panic attack, you feel like you're going to die.
Yeah, you
And
really do. And there's no lassoing it in that moment. One thing that you did suggest where you were talking about if you start to feel it coming on and you're in a setting where you don't want to deal with it, which side note, Elisa is posting some good tips if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, little
yeah,
side videos. But I watched this and I actually felt one coming on where you're talking about pointing and naming the physical things that were around
yeah.
me. I've used it and it helped a lot. So little things, but I mean, once it starts, you just kind of have to, I mean, at least for me, I just have to ride it out.
And I think it's really huge to remind yourself, this will pass. This is not going to be the rest of my life. Like this moment right here is not going to be the rest of my life. I'm not going to be in panic for the next 5 hours or for the next 5 years. This is just a few minutes. And if I can get through this, then I will be just fine. One of my favorite sayings is no feeling is final. Every feeling will change. I promise you, there's no feeling that will stay. You will change into something else at some point. I don't know how long the feeling will stay, but it will absolutely change.
I really like that.
No feeling is final.
No feeling is final.
So I do want to, just going back to when you're feeling panicked, one of the exercises that we posted on Facebook, Instagram, all the places, is it's a grounding exercise and it's an emotional regulation skill. So when you're feeling the symptoms that Katie just mentioned, it's stopping and starting to name factual things around you. So, I can see it on Katie's screen. I would say, black poster, black shirt, white wall, blonde hair, things like that are very factual that I don't have an emotional attachment to. I like to stay away from words like I can see the shining back there.
Yeah.
I want to stay away from that because that actually could provoke some sort of emotion because it's a scary movie. So
right.
Words we have attachments to. Typically the things just placed in front of us, if we're looking at them as just objects, we'll be fine. We'll be able to use them as like a calm down tool.
I love it.
The other thing you can do, which is another grounding technique, is just body relaxation. So, and this is more, something that you can do when you're alone. It's a little harder to do when you're in a public space, but going through each part of your body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet and forcing yourself to relax. So if you feel that your head is like this, you relax that. You're smiling. What are you smiling about? Do you do this?
From the time that I was a little baby until, I don't know, I was probably 11, 12, maybe even older when I would have a panic attack. My mom, every single night when I would go to bed, came in and reminded me to do what we called the relaxation response, is where we would do exactly that because I had so much anxiety at nighttime, because when I laid down and I tried to tell myself to go to sleep, that's when my brain decides to, it's a good time to party.
Yeah.
So my mom would come. It's just funny that you said that because that is another thing that I totally know works.
Yes. Good mama.
Good mama.
Good mama.
Well, that was one of the things you mentioned earlier with the way that I was raised in the household that I come from. And, anxiety was kind of always there. Just a little background for our audience. My dad is retired law enforcement, was, color code of safety before the ABCs, we're in a red zone, we're in an orange zone, and, there are certain ways to act, or, even knowing how to set the alarm at the house or whatever it may be. It was just, there was always kind of this extra step for safety.
So, okay, yeah. Katie, I want to hone in on this for a second because I think this is a really great example for our listeners. Listeners, viewers, whatever, while you haven't been traumatized, you were trained from a very young age to be very aware of your surroundings.
Yes.
So let's just look at the nighttime thing. When you go to sleep or when the lights turn off and you're alone in your bed, what's happening for you as a young kid? Do you remember?
I heard every sound. I still, to this day, almost 32 years old, have to have a fan in my room because I hear every creak, and I immediately go into, perfect example, last night we're in this middle of this windstorm thing, and I knew that, but I heard a branch hit the window, and the first thing that went through my mind was, how am I going to grab my dog, make sure my fiance is with me, and what's the best way for us to get out of the house?
Right.
This was because of a twig.
But you have been trained to think like that, and for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Based on your father's previous employment, a threat of danger was probably actually always a potential thing that was looming.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we had a couple of incidents actually that took place from, someone trying to take our family dog, oddly enough, to, threats against family members.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been something that has been there since before I was even a thought to my parents, and will always be there. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't look at it and go, oh gosh, because of this, I'm this way. But when you mentioned that, it kind of hit a chord with me. Like, I bet that I just kind of am, for a lack of a better term, always on edge.
So we call that hypervigilant. You're
okay.
Hypervigilant.
I like that better than on edge.
Yeah. You're always aware of your surroundings. Your brain has been trained. So much like a police officer, a police officer is hypervigilant. Mm-hmm. People in gangs are hypervigilant. They have to be. So it's all safety, right? Like, how do I keep myself safe? I have to look at my surroundings. How do I get out? I'll bet you that you don't like to ever have your back to the door.
Never. Never. I can't stand it. When we go to eat, I always sit in the seat that's facing the door, unless I'm with my dad. Then I have to give it up because he has to sit there.
He gets priority.
Yeah, he takes rank.
Yeah.
But yeah, we go out. Drew and I just had lunch out the other day, and we went to go sit down, and I kind of looked at him like, back, switch.
Yeah. And we did not talk about this before. That is because you want to see who's coming in, who's going. How do I keep myself safe? Does this look like a shady character? And so my guess is that hypervigilance has created a lot of anxiety for you at a young age, just having to be very aware of your surroundings because there is a threat of danger on a regular basis for you.
Right. Right. So, and then there's also that added layer of, it's not just fear for myself, but also I'm fearing for my mom and my dad. And that's happening 3 ways in our little family, so.
Right. So everyone taking care of each other. And on the flip side of that, what an amazing thing to be hypervigilant about. You're all trying to protect each other. It's not based on like neglect or terrible circumstances, which is often a thing that happens. But this is for a very, very good reason.
I have several friends of mine that have asked me to go places with them, or asked when they're with me, they say that they're glad that I was there because we were in a shady situation, and I usually am kind of the head on the swivel person. So it definitely has it's more good than bad, but I can see how it could be a contributing factor to my anxiety. Just
more anxiety
in this part of me. I can see how that happened over here now.
Right. It happens over time too. But it's the same with everything. I believe that the things that are our greatest strength are also probably our greatest weakness.
Yeah.
Because they're a place where, if used the wrong way, it can really harm us. So really keeping that side of our strength in check so that it remains a strength, I think, is a really huge challenge for a lot of people, because that's amazing. You go out with your friends and they feel safe.
Right. And but don't feel so safe that you have, one too many and then try to pick a fight with somebody and then say, oh, Katie's here. Don't do that.
Katie's got this.
That's when you're on your own. That's when I Irish goodbye, which means leaving without saying a word.
And you check out. No, okay, why? Why wouldn't you step up and fight?
Because I have verbally defended people many a times.
Sure.
I am not going to take a physical assault charge for someone who is getting in a fight that does not need to happen. If somebody goes physically after my family or after my loved ones, I make no promise. But I'm also not going to be the one who sees my friend getting in a drunk fight and then all of a sudden now I'm in it.
Right.
That makes sense. I mean, I'll back them up, but I'm not a fighter. I'm not.
So it sounds like you have a lot of self-control.
When it comes to that, yeah, for the most part, not with my mouth, but physically.
Right. What did you call yourself? A walking mouth?
I'm a walking mouth. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever had to back up your mouth physically?
No, I can't. It came close. One time. And I refused to say that I was in the wrong because I was defending a friend who it was just a nasty situation.
Okay.
And I verbally went after the girl like a viper, and she turned around and I was like, all right, uncalled for, sorry. And I didn't want to fight.
Right.
But no, thankfully I have not had that full blown moment.
And I would imagine that is a training thing too. You have learned that that's not an option for you as the daughter of a law enforcement person, official. You can't do that. You don't get to behave that way.
So, and you know what? I've talked about this before with a few of my friends. There's a difference between people who do something and then think that they can get out of it because of their name.
Right.
And then there's a group of people who won't do that thing because they want to protect their name. And I'm on that side. I know that my name is attached to my dad. I know that my name is attached to my broadcasting career. Right. And I don't want to be that person who makes the poor decision and then all of a sudden is like, don't you know who I am, officer? I would just rather not ever have to be in that situation to begin with.
Right. And that speaks greatly to your integrity, right?
I think that I know how hard, I know how hard my family has worked my mom and my dad has worked to be who they are. And the last thing they needed was me taking advantage of that or making some massive mistake and tarnishing it. So that was instilled at a very young age.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, with my dad and his position, I always had to be very, hey, I really didn't get in hardly any trouble growing up.
Well, to me, that speaks to something very important. I believe that in order to have a high quality of life and to be satisfied with your life, you have to be congruent. So your actions have to be in line with your values, right? So, or values in line with either way, whatever. So for you really value your parents. You value your relationship with them. Therefore, your actions are going to line up with that value system. Now, I could bet that if there's a moment in time that you can recall, or if you even think about like doing something to violate that trust that you have with your parents, you would feel really crummy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I have not done it many times, but I have. Perfect. I have done it a couple of times growing up. I haven't done it a long time. But I still to this day, or even I just think about what a jerk I was when I was like 16 years old. Like, dude, really? And right. I'm like, I'm sorry about that, guys.
And you came back around, which is the most important thing. And here's the thing about teenagers. Your brain is not fully developed. Let's give teenagers a little bit of a break. They're not using that part of their brain yet with the prefrontal lobe, which is where the rational, logical stuff comes in. So when you're a jerk, you're thinking with all this back here, that impulse, that anxiety.
Okay.
So
is that where the anxiety is back here?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Of course that would develop first. Why not?
Right. Yes, right, of course. And for you well, actually, so you can start to see signs of anxiety in children at around 7. That's like a very common age to start seeing it. And so you'll pretty much know if somebody's going to have, well, I don't want to guarantee anything, but most people you can see all the way back to about that age, like, oh, they're going to struggle with a little bit of anxiety throughout their life, potentially. I love that your mom taught you that relaxation technique. And it sounds like you've learned a lot of grounding skills throughout your life to help manage that.
Yeah, they've taught me a lot with that, and that was one of the other things, because mine started really early.
Mm-hmm.
I started having, I think I would say, quote unquote, panic attacks getting into high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my mom and dad were able to identify the anxiety in me, because I wasn't just getting nervous about things periodically. I was a repeat offender. Every Sunday, I got what they started calling Sunday stomach, and I would start getting nervous about the school week, and it was every single Sunday.
Wow.
From all of growing up, my dad and I would take probably a mile walk after dinner every Sunday, because that was the only way I could calm down.
So I love that you bring that up with
Yeah.
what great parents you have. They really tried to work with you in your anxiety, and they taught you a lot of great skills. So with anxiety, I mean, you have like this pent up energy that you can't get out, and it just like your body's like buzzing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's perfect. It's exactly, it is like your body is buzzing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do with it. So getting that energy out is a great skill. Knowing I go for a walk, I go for a run. You'll find people that are prone to anxiety are avid exercisers. Mm-hmm. Because it does get a lot of that energy out of your body, quite literally. And so that's what a fantastic thing that your dad knew to do that.
Yeah.
I am curious.
He deals with anxiety, so he's probably using his tactics.
Exactly. And so then that's another factor that's really important to notice, is that this is genetic too. A lot of times this will be anxiety is genetic. If there's family history of anxiety. So what I like to do with a lot of clients is called a genogram. And so it's basically like, you would see on an ancestry website and doing the whole family tree type of thing. But you look at patterns of like mental health challenges, or patterns of relationship patterns, if you like cut off people when you don't agree with them anymore, or how regularly do you see divorce in the family, things like that. And you'll see there are patterns of anxiety, patterns of depression, patterns of divorce. Just
wow. Okay.
Not that divorce is genetic, but those other things are, and divorce is modeled. So a lot of times it will just kind of you'll follow suit. So, but yeah, it's really, of course, like if both your parents struggle with that, then it would make sense that you do too.
Yeah.
And then we've got the safety on top of it.
Right. Exactly. So you add that added layer. Yeah. And that was something, I think that was helpful growing up, because I don't know that my mom deals with it. So my mom can take anything. She's like a little machine, but I know that my dad deals with it. And you're right. My dad is an avid exerciser.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes so much sense. That's why he has to do it every day for probably like an hour and a half. And he's 71.
It's for not just for his health, but for his mental health. I'd imagine that's a big part of it. Good for him.
Cool.
And the other thing with anxiety is making sure you have a routine in your life, because anxiety is very much about control. Mm-hmm. You need to have control of your surroundings. That's why you need to see the door when you're sitting at a restaurant or wherever, so that you can have control of the situation to some extent. So if you have a routine throughout your day, that is super helpful, because you know what to expect with your day. Of course, you have to allow for some flexibility, but just implementing that exercise into your basic routine is going to be very helpful. If you have a kid struggling with anxiety, giving them a very specific routine throughout the day, I mean, it's all that.
Are there any special signs that you think that people might not be looking for in their kids that could show that they're dealing with anxiety, like little tips?
That's a good question. I I think anxiety can often look like ADD.
Okay.
So a lot of energy, like we said a few minutes ago, that's a big thing. And then you'll see, you'll hear your kids looping. I call it looping. And it's what you just called your nighttime brain. Or would you say like your brain just like dings on at night, right?
Yeah, that's when I go to bed, my brain wakes up. That's
Yeah. And you probably you're probably looping.
mm-hmm.
You're just like over and over about the same exact thing that you have zero control over and you can't do anything about it at night, but your brain just wants to like focus on it 100%.
Looping. That's exactly what. Another good one.
Looping.
Buzzing and looping.
Buzzing and looping.
That's what I do.
You're like,
yeah, I know. I'm just like a bee, just buzzing and looping. It's all.
Yes. So I think you'll see that in kids at a pretty young age. You'll hear them. They will talk about it. They will also, you'll see kids not quite sure of, what's going on for them. So they're trying, you might have like a very controlling child.
Okay.
So they're needing to, what's going to happen next? How come this didn't work out? What's going on? So really explaining things to your kids is really important. And if you have a partner or a spouse or a friend who has anxiety, talking them through everything is really helpful so that they can feel like they have some semblance of control in whatever situation they're getting into.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I especially that last one, sometimes just sitting down and talking it out.
Yeah.
And then having Drew, the last sentence that he says is that everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. But sometimes I'll have to sit there and be like, yeah, but I took off my seatbelt and I got out of the car and I walked up the stairs I'm like trying to get my brain to do every step.
Uh-huh.
All while not breathing, of course.
Right.
You can do that when you're freaking out.
Right.
But talking it out and just even him listening to me loop for a minute.
Super helpful.
It can actually stop a panic attack in its tracks.
Absolutely. Yes. And it should, because you're getting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so one technique that you could use if you don't have somebody to process with is making a list of your looping. So just grabbing a piece of paper, I would even do this in the middle of the night if you can. Or grab your phone and get the notes app out and just like, okay, I already thought about our podcast tomorrow and just write podcast down. Okay, what's the next thing that's coming up is exercise. I already planned my exercise, just write exercise. And so just like doing a basic, bullet list of what you're looping about. And so it kind of helps because you're putting it somewhere tangible.
Right.
And then if you hear yourself doing it again, you grab your phone, you go, I already did this.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Because it kind of, and you're also kind of distracting yourself with the typing and, doing all of that. And you're reminding yourself that you've already put yourself through this one already.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
This is not productive. Let's stop this now.
I love that.
Yeah. Try it out.
Okay. I will. Trust, I have plenty of opportunity.
Oh, good.
I love to looping and buzzing. We're
going to circle back next week and see how it works. You have homework.
Okay. I'll also probably text you the next morning that I'm like, hey, guess what? I looped last night and I wrote it all down.
I looped. Well, through our digital distance.
Yes. And I ate the OREO.
Okay, that's perfect. So I think that that's a great place to end because we've given some great tactics. We've talked a little bit about Katie and kind of what goes on up there for her, which is super interesting. And I think that I love that you're willing to open up about this, Katie, because I believe that it's just validating so many people's feelings.
Yeah.
19 million. I'm going to say it again. 19 million people deal with anxiety. So anyone listening to this, there's a high probability that you really resonate with some things that Katie talked about today. So I'm thankful that you're willing to open up.
Yeah, I that's one of the other things that I was so excited about when you asked me to do this show is I am an open book with this. Some people might think, you're kind of making yourself look a little, but no, I like you just said, 19 million people.
Yes.
And if somebody's sitting at home and maybe they are looping and buzzing and they think there's something wrong with them and they can't talk about it, well, hey, hi, you're not alone. We're right here.
Katie's got it.
I'm with you. I do it all the time, and it's not weird.
It's not weird. It's not weird. And here's the other thing that I think is so important for people in general to remember, but especially people with anxiety, because there's so much worry happening and so much concern, is to remind yourself that you are doing the best you can.
I like that.
And if that can be part of your self-talk, part of your narrative, I think it'll just support your effort in staying calm, in believing in yourself. I am doing the best I can with the information I've been given, with the circumstances I've been given. I'm doing the best I can. And I am a true believer that everybody is doing the best they can. Mm-hmm. Even, I might get flack for this, but even like criminals. I believe that in some ways they're doing the best they can, because in some way they are getting some sort of reward for their behavior. They've been taught a lot of this. Most of them did not grow up in homes that taught them morality. And so in a lot of ways, they're doing the best they can, and maybe going to jail is going to be the best thing for them.
Right.
So that they can learn a new way of doing better. So, I mean, I really, not to get on a whole other tangent, but I really believe like people really, with what they've been given, they're trying.
Right.
Nobody wants to have a crappy life.
Right. We all have to be a little bit more of a cheerleader for ourselves right now.
Yes.
You know, if it doesn't feel, if the entire world is crumbled around you like it has for so many during all of this, you know, instead of beating yourself up about everything terrible that's happened, just, you know, I know this is going to sound cheesy, but gratitude is huge. Being grateful for what you do have.
Absolutely.
Giving yourself a little bit more credit right now isn't going to hurt anybody.
Absolutely.
And that after talking with you a few times on here and off of here, I've been kind of trying to adopt that. Like, I need to stop beating myself up so much. Even, you know, if something doesn't go totally according to plan, okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, check.
Yeah.
Let me get my notes out and write it down, and we'll try again tomorrow. Mm-hmm. What's the worst that's going to happen? I also think that's a really important thing to ask yourself. What's the worst that's going to happen right now?
Yes. See, now I like that question, but that question has gotten dangerous with me a couple of times, because I remind myself of the worst, and then I'm like, oh, I know it's not going to happen.
And then that's the other thing, challenging. What is the probability of this worst thing actually happening? What's the probability here?
Right. Exactly.
Do I live in that probability? Probably not.
Like that bee that I saw outside earlier that I was worried about my dog getting to is probably not a baby murder hornet that made it here from Washington. I could probably let that thought go.
Probably.
But I lost sight of it, and now I don't know where it is. And what if it is?
And what if it is?
I'm just kidding. But that's a real thought that happened to me earlier. I'm not just making that up. That went through my head, and I had to that was one of the ones that I had to let go. Okay.
So let's end with this. What did you do to let it go?
I kind of just had to let it go, literally just stop myself. And I'm still talking about it. So obviously it hasn't completely gone away, but I saw it. And then I saw Bailey get really close to it, and then I lost sight of it, and it's somewhere in my backyard because it was like injured. You know what I mean? And so I was worried more so about eating it to begin with, because I've seen her eat a bee before, and she, you know.
Oh.
But then my brain thought about that nest that they just found, you know, 2 states up, and my brain went, you know, not a bird hornet.
And so that is where fear comes in with anxiety.
Yes.
Fear is a huge motivator of anxiety. And so it's fear, what's going to happen to my dog? What am I going to have to deal with? I love my dog so much. What if he gets hurt? And so, I mean, fear capitalizes, or anxiety capitalizes on fear. But also I think with what you're saying, just kind of letting that thought go, I don't have control over this.
Right.
I don't have control over this bee.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. I asked myself, what can I do about this right now?
Right.
Nothing. There was nothing I could do.
And even then, it is great to pull out a piece of paper and write it down. Murder hornet.
I'm going to take one piece of paper for a day and just write my bullet, and I'll post it. I bet it'll be hilarious.
Great.
Yeah,
I
murder
can't wait to
hornets,
see it.
dog poop. What's next?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when your brain starts to go back to it, you pull out your paper.
Okay.
I
like
already
this
did
a lot.
this. I already decided I don't have control over this thing.
I'm going to post it right there on that bulletin board.
Okay, I'm excited. All right. We're going to listen to Katie's homework next week. And then, I mean, the last thing you can do to take care of yourself is eat the Oreo. Obviously. Eat the Oreo.
And while you're eating the Oreo, go online and follow us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube now.
Yes.
All Let's Get Therapy.
Yes.
Follow us. You can contact us. You can send us messages and comments. Facebook's doing this weird thing where you have to like the page and follow it to see all of our stuff. So if you could take both process steps, that would be awesome as well. Yes. But all of that while eating the Oreo, please.
All of it. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.